Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome to all of you who are watching this live. It's really great to have you on with us this afternoon. And if you're watching this later on the replay, then hello to you as well. For those who don't know me, I'm David Miles from the PPC Machine, and I'm on a mission to help mortgage brokers, financial advisors, and other financial services professionals to generate a consistent flow of leads from their own websites so as they can stop stressing about where their next client is coming from, basically. Now, in today's live stream, I'm going to be talking about niching, or if you're watching this in the United States, it's very, very similar to niching. So I'm going to be talking about niching and why you should be doing that within your mortgage business if you want to generate more leads. But first of all, just before we get started, I'd love to get a better idea of how many people watch these live and how many people are watching them later on the replay. So whether you're watching live or watching on the replay, could you do me a quick favor and just in the comments, just put either hashtag live if you're watching it live at the moment, or hashtag replay if you're watching it on the replay, and that will help me get a gauge of when people are actually getting to watch this. Also in the comments, as usual, as we go through, if you have any questions or thoughts on anything I'm saying, do put comments and questions in there. I'll do my best to keep, I've got an iPad just out of shot here, or hopefully it's out of shot, and I'll be keeping an eye on that as we go through. And you can also put questions if you're watching on the replay, because I will check in over the next couple of days and pick up any questions that come in after the actual live event. So before we go any further, let's just answer the obvious question. What is niching? What do we mean by that? Well, basically within the context of running a mortgage brokerage, niching is when you stop trying to market your business to just anybody and everybody, and instead you focus on one or more specific audiences instead. So basically you're marketing your business to a smaller number of people, but you're doing that in order to get a greater number of new clients. And now I know that sounds counterintuitive. You'd think, you know, if you market to a small number of people, you'll get less clients. And if you market to a bigger number of people, you get more clients. But that's not actually the case. And that's why I call it the niching paradox, because it goes against what you expect to be the case. But it has been shown over and over again in all sorts of different businesses, including my own, as it happens, that if you market to a smaller, tighter group of people, you will actually get more clients than if you spread the net too widely. So today I'm going to go through 7 of the top reasons why I think niching works and why it's a really good thing to do in your particular mortgage business. So I'm just going to share the, I'll go look around here to see past the iPad, see where the share button is. There we are, there it is. And share the slides for this. Okay, so 7 reasons why you should be niching your business as a mortgage broker. So the first one is about differentiation, about differentiating yourself from all the other mortgage brokers who are out there. And I double checked the stats earlier on today, and I counted this number here, 48,274. That's the number I found that according to the FCA, that's how many mortgage brokers there were operating in the UK as of 2018, either directly authorised or as ARs of directly authorised firms or employees of directly authorised firms. So that's obviously a large number of people. And as I've said to several of you over the years and over the months we've been talking about different things, the big problem you've got as a mortgage broker, and it's not unique to the mortgage industry, of course, it applies to financial advisors, insurance brokers, all sorts of other professions. At the end of the day, give or take, some people are whole of market and some are restricted panel, but broadly speaking, all 48,000 of those mortgage brokers are all selling the same products from the same lenders. So, if I get a mortgage from mortgage broker A, there's a good chance it's not going to be any different from the mortgage that I would get from mortgage broker B. So as a mortgage broker, how do you set yourself apart and differentiate yourself from the other 48,273 mortgage brokers that you're competing against? And niching is one way to do that, because if you instead of being just a general mortgage broker, are the mortgage broker who specializes in a particular thing, like, I don't know, mortgages for IT contractors or mortgages for thatched cottages or whatever your niche is, that immediately sets you apart from the crowd. Second reason is that niching helps you to become more memorable. In other words, you're more likely to stick in someone's minds if, instead of being just, oh, that guy I met who was a mortgage broker, or that mortgage broker I spoke to at a networking event last week, if you are the mortgage broker who specializes in a particular sector, then you're more likely to stick in people's minds. And I had a really good example of that actually when I was putting this slide together, and I was trying to think of an example of this. I immediately thought of someone who's I came across his post on LinkedIn last week or week before, and it was a post that he put out, and it was to do with writing life insurance policies in trust, I think, if I remember rightly. And I posted a comment in reply to it. But that particular broker really stuck in my mind. I remembered him, and I didn't remember him just because I'd commented on his post. I remembered him because he had a niche. And so he wasn't just another mortgage broker that I was connected to on LinkedIn or whose posts I was seeing on there. And that's his profile. And you can see straight away from looking at his LinkedIn profile that he has a very clear niche. He is, he's not just a mortgage broker offering a range of mortgages from lots of lenders to get you the best deal, or whatever all the others would be saying. He's actually specializing, he's niched into doing mortgages for people who work in the NHS, and he's even managed in his LinkedIn headline to weave in one of the particular benefits he offers, which he feels is particularly relevant to that niche, which is the ability to see him at unusual times and get appointments that fit around your shift patterns and all that kind of thing. And because of that, as I say, he's stuck in my mind since last week, out of all the many mortgage brokers that I see and interact with on LinkedIn all the time. I'm seeing a few things in the comments where I'm saying people are seeing frozen pictures. So I don't know whether that's just one person saying whether that's just an individual issue there, or whether other people are seeing it. I have got a test view of it running on this iPad here, and I can see things moving on there. So hopefully that's not affecting everyone. But if it is, or if you're having any problems watching it live, then do come back and give it a try on the replay later on, because it should at the very least be viewable okay on that. So that's your second reason for niching your business. It's about becoming more memorable, and not being just another mortgage broker that people are going to forget about far more easily. Third reason is, again, this applies generally to niching, not just within the mortgage sector, but as a general rule of thumb, the people who have a niche, or the people who are more specialist, they are the ones who are able to charge more for their services. So an example that is often used to illustrate this is within the medical profession. So if you, for example, go and see your local GP because you've got a pain in your hip or something like that, your GP, your general practitioner, is by definition a generalist. So he or she will have a reasonably good knowledge of all aspects of medicine and the human body and whatever. So your GP will probably be able to diagnose to an extent that you have something wrong with your hip and that you need to see a specialist. And then your GP will always give you a letter and send you off to the local hospital, where you would see the orthopedic surgeon or the orthopedic consultant, the person who specializes in this case, treating issues with hips. And that's the person, if it comes to having an actual operation, who do you want doing it? Do you want the GP doing it, who knows a reasonable amount about everything? Or do you want the hip surgeon doing it, who specializes in fixing people's hips day in, day out? And of course, it's going to be the specialist surgeon. And which of them do you think gets paid more or is able to charge more for his or her services? It's the specialist surgeon. You can see the same thing happening within, hospitality industry. So if you want to, go out for a meal, obviously, in the days when you can do that kind of thing, if you want to go out for a meal, let's say you want to go for a curry, you could go to Wetherspoons for a curry. They're a pub, they serve all kinds of food. They do steaks, they do curries, they do fish and chips, they do the whole lot. And you'll pay, whatever it is, £6 or £7, whatever, for your meal. Or if you want a really nice curry, you could go to an actual dedicated Indian restaurant. And where are you going to pay more? You're going to pay more at the actual Indian restaurant because they specialize in that particular cuisine. Now, in terms of the mortgage industry, you could find that being a niche broker is one of the things that makes it easier to justify charging a broker fee for your services. If you're just another broker offering all kinds of mortgages to all kinds of people, and you're trying to charge a fee, and your client or prospective client says to you, well, I like what you're saying, but there's another broker down the road and he says he'll do my mortgage for free, so I'm going to go to him. Well, it's difficult to counter that, but it's much easier to counter that if you can say, oh yeah, but does that other mortgage broker down the road, do they specialize in doing mortgages for people who work in the NHS? Will they be able to present your case in the best way? Have they done mortgages for 10 other NHS workers this month, and they already know which lenders have got the best deals for people with your kind of job, etc., etc.? That's what you're paying for. So it can actually help to be able to justify charging fees if you say, well, the reason I charge a fee is because I'm a specialist in this particular sector. Or you might be able to charge a slightly higher broker fee than you do at the moment by becoming a specialist. I guess the other thing with that as well, actually, is that if someone has come to you for a mortgage, and they've come to you because you are a specialist in their particular profession or in the particular kind of property that they're looking to do or whatever, then they are. Sorry, I got distracted by Mattis's comment there saying good curry analogy. Good, I like a good curry analogy. I'm glad you approve. So yeah, they're also more likely to stay with you, this client, if you're a specialist, and do all the other bits and pieces like the protection, or maybe let you refer them to a specialist will writer who's going to pay you a referral fee, and all those kind of things. So it just becomes much easier to form that relationship and keep that client and get all the upsells and cross sells if you're seen as the specialist as well. So reason number 4 is that by niching, you reduce your competition. So this ties in a bit with the differentiation point that we talked at the beginning. But as we said at the start, there are 48,000 odd mortgage brokers out there. But how many mortgage brokers, sticking with the example from that guy's LinkedIn profile, how many mortgage brokers are there out there who specialize in doing mortgages for the NHS? I don't know the number. It'll be more than just this one guy, obviously, but it will also be a lot less than 48,274. So as soon as you focus on a niche or niches, you wipe out a lot of your competition because you've removed yourself from that crowded marketplace, that crowded playing field, and you're now competing against a much smaller number of other brokers. I find exactly the same thing myself in my own business. If I regularly have potential clients talking to me who will say something like, they're quite upfront. Sometimes I'm talking to you. I'm talking to 1 or 2 other people as well, but only a couple. And I'm only talking to people who specialize in doing digital marketing for financial services. And as soon as they say that, I can pretty much in my head name who the other people are going to be talking to. Because if they were just talking to digital marketing consultants, obviously there are thousands of us in the country. But if they're only looking to talk to digital marketing consultants who specialize in financial services, then there's me and about 4 others. So, the people who are looking for a supplier in that kind of way, it's a much smaller pool. So, suddenly I've got a handful of competitors and I can name every one of them. Whereas if I was just a generalist, I'd have thousands and I wouldn't be able to name more than a few of the really big ones anyway. So that's another good reason for doing it, is reducing your competition. Now, this one, sometimes people take a little while to get their head around this next one. If you niche your business, it actually makes all of your marketing easier. And the reason I say that is because it actually gives you a much clearer idea where to start with your marketing. And also, if you're a small business with a limited marketing budget, it gives you a much tighter focus and clearer targeting of where to spend that limited budget. And it's the reason this happens is because if you give, in anything in life, if you give people too much choice, they get confused and they don't know where to start or which thing to choose. And a really good analogy for this is, I don't know if any of you watching this have ever done any networking, in particular been involved in BNI, Business Networking International. They have breakfast networking meetings all around the country, all around the world. And I know it well because I've been a member of a BNI group for about 10 years. And one of the things they teach you to do is when you're giving your 60 seconds presentation each week, saying who you are and what you do, they encourage you to say what kind of referrals you're looking for. What kind of potential clients would you like to be introduced to this week? And they encourage you to be as specific as possible when you're saying who you want to be referred to. So, rather than just saying, I want to be introduced to, finance directors, you would say, I want to be introduced to Joe Bloggs. He's the finance director at whatever PLC. And the reason they encourage you to do that is it's actually then much easier for everybody else in the room to visualize and think about what you want because you've been really specific. So, there's a chance that somebody in the room might know Joe Bloggs, who's the finance director of Big Co PLC. But even if they don't, because you've asked for something quite specific, it will make them think along that line. So they might think, well, I don't know Joe Bloggs, who's the finance director of blah, blah, blah. But actually, my brother's mother-in-law, she's the finance director of another company that's very similar to them. So perhaps I could see if I could introduce her to this person who wants to speak to finance directors. Whereas if someone in their request for introductions casts the net too wide, people just go, oh, that could be anyone, I don't know. And so, as a mortgage broker, if you say to people in that context, oh, I'd like to speak to anyone who's looking to buy a house or anyone who's got a house and might want to save money on their mortgage, it's too big an ask. People will just say, oh, well, it could be him, it could be her, it could be, oh, I don't know who to introduce them to, so I just won't, I'll just give up. Whereas if you say, I want to speak to someone who is, just had a new baby and is looking to extend their house and needs to talk about how to raise the finance for that, there's far more chance actually of someone knowing someone like that or a bit like that and being able to give you a name. And that same theory applies when it comes to you doing your own marketing. If I say to you, go out and market your business to everybody, you won't know where to start. And it's too mammoth a task. Whereas if I say to you, go out and market your business to, again, taking that same example there, go out and market your business to recently qualified NHS staff, people who've just qualified as doctors in the NHS within the last 5 years, that becomes a much easier thing. Okay, I can deal with that. That's got defined boundaries. I know what I'm looking for, and I can now start thinking about where is the best place to go and find those newly qualified doctors, rather than trying to think where is the best place to go and find everyone who has a house or might be thinking of buying one. Hopefully you can see the difference there. So linked to that point, it not only makes all of your marketing easier if you have a niche, but there's a couple of very specific areas, and obviously areas which I'm particularly passionate about, where having a niche makes your life much, much easier. So the first one of those is Google Ads. So if you're running Google Ads to try and attract people to your website who are looking for mortgage advice or looking to speak to a mortgage broker or whatever, you could use, quite general keywords like mortgage broker, mortgage advice, mortgage quotes, remortgage quotes, that kind of thing. And if you haven't got a niche and you're just trying to attract everybody, well, that's all you can do really. And the problem is, as any of you who've been on any of my Google Ads training courses or Facebook Lives or anything will know, if you are too generalistic with your keywords in Google Ads, you're going to end up competing against a lot of other advertisers. And so the amount you have to pay for each click on your ads will be driven up and up and up. On the other hand, if you already have a clearly defined niche, that's going to mean that the keywords you naturally start to think of using in your Google Ads campaigns are going to be more niche kind of keywords, like mortgages for doctors, mortgages for nurses, mortgages for paramedics. All those kinds of things would be your sort of keywords you would go after if your chosen niche was people who worked in the NHS. And those niche kinds of keywords will have less people bidding on them because there are a smaller number of mortgage brokers who are focusing on that niche. And because they've got less people bidding on them, the cost per click will be lower because, like any auction, the less people there are bidding, the less chance there is of the price getting pushed up and up. The second benefit of it within the Google Ads context is that if you have a clear niche, you can make sure that the ads that you write and which appear on Google when someone triggers one of your keywords, you can make sure that those ads are very specific to that niche. So you can have ads which talk about the fact that you provide mortgage advice for NHS people. Oh, but talk about the fact that one of the benefits of your service is you'll fit in and have appointments with them that work around their shift patterns and all that kind of thing. And of course, because those ads will then be more engaging to your target audience, they're more likely to click on them. And if you get more clicks on your ad, if you get a higher click-through rate, Google rewards you for that by giving you a better, what they call quality score, which means that you pay less for your click and you potentially appear higher up the rankings than people who are bidding more than you because you've got this better quality score. So, you don't have to have a niche in order to do all these things correctly in Google Ads and to find, tighter keywords and write better ads. But if you've already got a niche, it makes it much easier to do those things in Google Ads. And in fact, it almost kind of steers you towards doing that naturally, compared to whereas if you were generalist, you'd have to make a real effort to try and make your keywords more focused and find the less competitive ones. And then the final one, number 7, is in a similar way to how having a niche can help your Google advertising. If you've got a niche, it can make your Facebook advertising more effective if you decide to go down that route. Now, if you've done any Facebook advertising before, or probably even if you've been on the receiving end of Facebook advertising, you'll know that the whole sort of principle with Facebook advertising is that as the advertiser, you can target people based on things like their age, their gender, where they live, what their hobbies and interests are, all those kinds of things. And Facebook has a huge list of different things that you can target people by. Now, one of the challenges that you have as a mortgage broker is that there are certain categories of ad, and those are categories that involve things like buying houses or getting credit. So things which obviously are closely linked to the world of a mortgage broker. If you're advertising in some of those special categories, you are now very restricted on what you can do targeting wise. You can't target people based on things like age, gender, or other protected characteristics if you are advertising a product or service that is to do with things like credit or housing. So that means that I was doing a one-to-one training session online last week with a mortgage broker who had some Facebook ads running, and after a few days, Facebook had rejected and disapproved the ads. And the reason was that they were fairly, there's nothing controversial about the ads. They were ads that were targeting first-time buyers and were offering the first-time buyers a guide that they could download. But the ads have been set up to only target people between a certain age range, like, between 21 and 40 or something like that. And because the ads were related to buying houses, and because the advertiser was targeting based on age, Facebook had then rejected them. So you can't do that. So you need to find a different way, if you're advertising on Facebook as a mortgage broker, to narrow the field a bit, rather than advertising to all 60 million people in the UK, or however many of them are on Facebook. So if you can't target by any of the protected characteristics, what you can do though is target based on things like interests or job titles or things like that. So again, keeping our NHS niche example, if you were running Facebook ads, you could then say, right, I'll target to the whole of the UK, but I'm going to only show ads to people who have job titles like GP, surgeon, doctor, nurse, those kinds of things. And that would be a way of narrowing it down from just everybody in the country, but avoiding falling into the trap of targeting based on any of the things that you're not allowed to target on. It also means, again, a bit like we talked about with the Google ads, about making the ads relevant to your audience. It means that the ads can then speak directly to your target niche. So if you know that you are advertising to people who work in the NHS, you can make sure that your ads, use imagery that's relevant to the profession and have messaging that's relevant to them and all that kind of thing, which again will increase the engagement. So there you have it. Those are the 7 main reasons why niching is a good idea as a mortgage broker. If you want to know, now that we've talked about the reasons why you should do it, if you want to know how to do it, then you should join me and the rest of the members of the Predictable Pipeline program. The predictable pipeline program, if you've not heard of it, is a membership program that I've set up for mortgage brokers and financial advisors who want to learn how to use their own websites to generate a consistent flow of leads and stop stressing about where the next client's coming from. What you get within the program is you get twice monthly group coaching calls, and the next one of those is on Tuesday next week, and we will be talking in that call all about niching and going into more detail on it than we have today, and specifically focusing on how you actually choose a niche, looking at examples of all the different kinds of niches that you could have, because believe me, there's a lot more than just NHS. So we'll be looking at all examples of different kinds of niches and looking at how you choose the right one for you and how you then apply that niche or niches to your business and integrate it into, into all the aspects of your marketing. The program also includes a whole library of online courses, including a whole course just on niching. There are done for you resources, ready-made email sequences you can download, template marketing documents, done for you ad templates, all that kind of stuff. You get access to a support forum, an online community, and you get you get discounts on one-to-one training of the type that I was talking about that I was doing with that guy last week. At the moment, because it's in its launch month, it's on offer. So at the moment, you can join the program for just £69 a month, and you'll be locked in at that price, even if, as it will do, it then goes up for new members after that. So if you've got any questions about that or think that might be useful for you, have a look. The link's on the screen there, the ppcmachine.co.uk/ppp, or get in touch with me through any of the usual channels. Do we have any other questions then around? I don't think we've talked about with niching there. I'm just looking back through the comments. Or Mattis has said something there. Mattis has said both Google Ads and Facebook Ads work well for mortgage brokers. Facebook Ads can often be temperamental. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as most of you know, I'm more of an advocate of Google Ads than Facebook Ads, just, personal preference. I've used it a lot more. I'm more of an expert on Google Ads than I am on Facebook Ads. But the reason I prefer it isn't just being more comfortable with it. I think Google Ads, there's two reasons I prefer it. One, with Google Ads, you get people who are actively searching on Google at the moment for mortgages or mortgage advice. Whereas with Facebook, you're going to be showing your ads to people who might be actively looking, but equally might just be thinking about mortgages at the moment. The second thing is I do find Facebook advertising is far more temperamental in terms of, you're far more likely to get your ads disapproved. They can be running for a week or so and suddenly they'll disapprove them for some reason. Often it's not a valid reason. And when you request a manual review, they just start them running again. But you don't tend to get so much of that with Google Ads. So I would always be very wary, just for that reason alone, about building an entire business on Facebook Ads, because they can pull the rug from under you at any moment, and it's often not that easy to then speak to anyone and get it sorted. At least in my experience. Mattis may think differently, but yeah. So okay, brilliant. Well, if there's no other questions, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for coming on today. Hope that's been useful. And so if you've got any questions you think of afterwards about any aspect of what I've spoken about today, then do just pop them in the comments. If you've got any requests or suggestions for what you'd like to see in future Facebook Lives, pop them in as well. And hope you have a good evening. Thanks very much for coming along. Cheers. Bye.